Hi folks, Chris Gonzo Gondek here again for another NetApp Newsworthy Minute. I'm here today to talk with one of our strategic alliance partners, Veeam, and I'd like to welcome from Veeam the Australia-New Zealand Principal Architect, John Wood. John, welcome to today's NetApp's Newsworthy Minute.
Thank you, Gonzo.
Woody, I'll start off by asking, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Veeam in Australia.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, as my role as a principal architect or solutions architect across Australia and New Zealand, I help our customers, partners, and as well alliance partners develop, best practices and architectures, integrating our software with the likes of NetApp, as well as other vendors that we also integrate with. So it's looking at just outside of the data protection solution and how Veeam fits into an organization and what their needs and requirements are around data protection.
Fantastic. So while we're actually on data protection, we all know that Veeam is one of the many capabilities of Veeam's. Speaking of data protection and backup and recovery, what would you say is the number one concern around the sort of cyber threats that folks are wanting to recover from these days?
Yeah, so ransomware is obviously the number one hitting the headlines at the moment. There's been a lot of recent cases, but it's been a building threat for a while now. I think just what's happening in the landscape is that more of those attacks are coming to light and making the news because they're more impactful now than ever, and they're hitting bigger companies that are required to pay bigger ransoms to get their data back. Unfortunately, so definitely ransomware is the key one.
Ransomware. So in your experience working with your customers around the world in terms of being able to be resilient and recover from a ransomware attack, what would you say is the most important capability to have to be able to reach those recovery SLAs? Because as I understand it, a very, strategic ransomware attack tries to go after the backup data as well as the primary data, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like we've definitely seen the attackers get more sophisticated as time goes on and respond in different ways. And ultimately, behind education, and prevention, your backup systems are your final defense mechanism to be able to recover from a ransomware attack. So, backups are being now targeted as that's that final place where your data can be recovered from before you have to pay that ransom. So by no means do we say that we prevent or stop ransomware. We are that last line of defense to be able to recover that data. And the only way that we can recover that data if and when you need it is to make sure that we treat those backup systems as critical infrastructure systems, because at the end of the day, they're the systems that we need right at the end, and we need to put some barriers in place. And immutability is obviously a key one around not being able to touch those backups or change them as time goes on, because we want an accurate point in time to be able to restore from that hasn't been altered by anybody else.
Fantastic. So that's a very key point you've touched on there, immutability. I think, you and I have both been in the industry for many years and worked with data protection solutions. So in the past, when we used to write our backups to tape would come out of a drive and sit on a shelf or in a robot somewhere. It was kind of treated as a offline, almost immutable kind of copy until it gets back in the tape device and restored from again. Now, we know over the years, newer storage mediums have emerged, such as object storage, that has been a very popular replacement for tape technologies for a whole raft of reasons. Obviously, we've got object storage is online, it's more accessible, we can do more things with our backup copies. But then from an immutability perspective, we need to have some sort of locking capability. And so Veeam and NetApp have had a strong partnership for many years, and most recently we've released our Storage Grid 11.5 solution, which is our object storage solution, and we have the feature known as object locking, which lends itself to mutability. Veeam, you're first to market globally to natively leverage and support this feature. Can you tell us a little bit what that means for our joint customers out there and this new technology in the form of immutability from ransomware?
Yeah, I think you touched on it. With our long history of integration between the two companies, and I think one of the benefits is as the products mature and add additional capability, then both our customers benefit, because when new capabilities is released from your side, Veeam already supports that technology. We supported it, we brought it into our version 10 release, so that literally via a checkbox, we can now make the backups immutable for a period of time to meet your SLA outcome, right? So for those exact reasons, that we want to make sure that the data is available when we need it, but also protected for those circumstances where it is critical to get that data back in a manner which can solve those ransomware issues.
Fantastic. And so, John, just in closing, we've talked about the partnership between Veeam and NetApp and between our technology integration points. Obviously, what we do isn't just isolated to immutable backup copies, but this latest release of StorageGrid and Veeam's immediate support for it is great for our customers out there. Is this solution just tied to the data center?
I think where we've seen a lot of customer requests come from is for customers that are obviously in the data center and want to make sure that they can have and see their copy of their data locally and make sure it's immutable as well. StorageGrid obviously gives that that ability for customers to have and own that infrastructure and manage it from top to bottom. So there's there are obviously a lot of customers that want that hybrid cloud approach. You could definitely integrate from outside the data center back on premises as well. So there's a number of different options available, whether it be in the data center or coming back down from cloud as well. Obviously, is another use case there.
Fantastic. And naturally, as these features continue to evolve, we're going to keep working together to find these new solutions for our customers around immutability, around air gapping, and just ensuring recovery SLAs. Recovery SLAs are no longer around recovery time and recovery point objectives. We're thinking about offsite copies. We're thinking about different mediums. We're thinking about air-gapped immutable copies. And that's something I've always loved about Veeam with its 3-2-1-1-1 rule. You've kind of taken it and extended it out to embrace these new types of threats and this new level of resiliency.
Absolutely, it's not just about making sure we've got a copy of the backup, but it's responding when you do need them. So in the event of your entire system being wiped out, you do have that immutable copy, and as simply as downloading a new version of Veeam, hooking it up to the StorageGrid, doing a rescan. There's no catalogs to restore. There's no databases to rebuild from scratch. It's simply connect it to that StorageGrid bucket, and you're able to restore using Veeam's incident recovery technology directly from that StorageGrid bucket. So it's a really quick response time in the event that you are in a catastrophic event.
Fantastic. John, Woody, thank you so much for joining us on this NetApp Newsworthy Minute with our strategic partners from Veeam. We'd love to have you back again at some point and hear about all the other ways that Veeam is addressing all these different types of cyber threats. We don't know what's next, what's around the corner, but we're going to be prepared.
Beautiful.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Chris.